Hey, what's going on, guys? 118 Set Shadow here. BSF 2023 has finally begun, and the first tournament from Canada in Toronto has taken place over this past weekend, and we have the results in for that, which I'll touch on a bit as we go along. But there are actually a few topics to go over today with stuff that Bushiroad has announced, as well as some other things that are going to be happening now that the BSF has started. The first thing I want to cover is that for D format, we now have a new promo available to us, which I covered from one of my early market watches, Petralka. That is the Lyrical Melody Highlander generic card for Lyrical Melody, where essentially it can restand itself or call something from the top of your deck as long as you checked only individual cards and no duplicates. So I talked about how triggers, especially foil triggers, would be looked at when it comes to building up Petralka, especially if you want to high rarity it. And just the other day, someone had bought some copies of my common version of Antia. So I decided to take a look at that. It had been a while since I had listed it, and now if you have a bunch of copies, I can see that most people are trying to sell this for $1. Some are trying to sell it for cheaper than that, but then they've only got one copy, so the shipping kind of offsets the whole thing, making it more incentivizing just to buy from those who have it for $1 so they can buy multiple copies at once. The holofoil is looking like $2.50 with a market price of $2. Ultimately, pay attention to the triggers far more often now, and especially the draw in fronts, because there aren't enough crits and heals to, or I should say there aren't enough crits. There are definitely enough heals because you can only play 4, but there aren't enough crits to make a full 8 crit variant in Petralka right now, so you have to actually look at fronts and draws too. But in terms of crits, I also want to refer to Misa's SP from the trial deck, which is almost sold out. We're only looking at one copy at $80, but they've mostly been selling in the 30s and 40s. There's the LSP version, which is more expensive than this, and from Lyrical Set 1, featuring her mermaid artwork. If you're more into that, you can take a look at Set 1 instead, but this one is gone now. And then Inlet Pulse Strike, and we haven't looked at this one for a while, so I'd say it's a good time to revisit, especially with Set 9 coming. 9 listings starting at $38, and then you've got one SP listing at $59. If we look at what's actually sold for the SP, 55, 80, 70. 80s and 70s are not too weird to see this sell at, so 59 is actually pretty good at this point. And Inlet Pulse is looking to be a strong card overall as we go, so this week's anime episode is going to be featuring Prison as well as Leonore, so I do want to focus on Prison since it hasn't been looked at in the anime for quite a while, and we haven't gotten support for Prison for a long time. So it would be kind of weird if we're not going to get Prison support in Set 10 when we haven't seen any since Set 6 and Festival Collection 22, actually. But Seraph Pure Light, the grade 4 of the entire deck, we're looking at the SSR, the highest rarity of this, with only one listing at $350 a piece. And then if we look at the lower ends, we've got 20 listings for the Triple R, 17 listings for the SP, and the difference in price is pretty significant, but not uncalled for. So if you're looking at Prison, keep your eye on stuff this week, as there may be big price spikes coming when we see this week's episode on Friday. Cup Spring is also another card to keep your eye out for, particularly the holofoil. This is a Set 3 card, so I can't imagine the common is going to get bought out, given that we just have so many Set 3 prints around. But the holofoil might see a buyout, as this was one of the more popular holofoils upon initial release. Keep your eye out for this one especially. But again, to that point about just too many copies of Set 3 cards on the market, Drilling Angel had a massive fallout. Thanks to Minerva, this card had increased to a $10 common for a little while, and now we're all the way back down to $2 with a bunch of copies on the market. The holofoil was also getting to the $15 mark, and now it's back under $5. And the market price you can see is 7, but let's see what actually sold for it. We're looking at 5s. Very, very briefly, some people did actually buy this above $10. But yeah, you have to be careful when it comes to set 3 cards because they will end up falling out in value pretty often as more prints just keep getting up there. Clouded Miasma is another card that just got repopulated. We have 18 listings now starting at $5, where this card was starting to increase beyond $10. Ultimately, this is still higher than the $1 that it was at well before Zorga got announced for the anime. So it's more expensive than it was before, but $3 might be a normal price to pick this up at, though $4 is not too bad. Rogue Headhunter is also something to look at when it comes to Zorga. It did see $4 very briefly, which I covered as an oddity in the market. But we're looking at $1.50 now if you want to pick up the Triple R, and the SP is under $10, so if you want to pick this up, that's not a bad price. Orphis Regis is up in price, and we're looking at $30 for this one, but there are still a fair number of copies to pick this up. Granted, this is getting new support in set 10, so be careful. It's 10 listings overall. The number of copies isn't too bad, but if Orphis gets more support that hasn't been announced yet, it could see another price increase. Possibly a price decrease, depending. The Shadow Army tokens. There are only 2 printings of this, and given that Orphis is starting to get another look at, I wanted to cover the commons price. This only exists in set 1, and has been selling over $1 pretty consistently right now. As Orphis gets more popular, if we don't see any reprints of this token, it's going to go up in value, like the plant token from set 5. Set 5 and set 8 have plant tokens though, so the common probably fell out a bit when it comes to set 5, but that's also because the set 5 tokens had alternate backsides, which makes them a bit more collectible than the set 8 versions. The Shadow Army token doesn't have anything like that, but given it's still the only printing besides the SP, it's going to hold some value for a while. Barbizon's SP has been an oddity in that it keeps selling out constantly, but it never goes on the market for more than about $25 at a time. Sometimes a little higher, but it's been pretty amazing to see this card never really cross the $30 threshold when its lower values or lower rarities are always like $3 plus. So be careful. Despite the fact that this card does keep getting back up there in the 20s, it's inevitable that this will end up somewhere above there at some point. Bulbamine, on the other hand, has a surprising fallout right now, where we're looking at $50 for a pair of listings here before getting back up to the 70s, and it has been selling in the 60s. We have the exchange campaign that's supposed to be going on with BSF right now, so what's supposed to happen there is that you would exchange your copies of Bulbamine at the BSF for the errata copy, which has monster in the name instead of mutant. How they're actually doing that, I'll probably have to ask around and find out, but we'll see. But essentially, if you want to pick up Bulbamines, they're cheaper than they would usually sell, so this might actually be a good price point to get into. Elementaria Sanctitude is up in value from its 2025 price point. This is just a staple in any deck that doesn't utilize grade 4s, and technically you can play this in Chronojet, because even though you play grade 4s, Stride puts your grade 4s back into your G zone at the end of your turn, so you'll be on grade 3 when you use this. It's kind of broken, to be honest, that you can play grade 4s in a Stride deck and still be able to play this, which is why this sees play in Premium as well. Now, talking about the BSF a little bit more, the top team, the winning team, had a Roroa deck among them. which has led to Resolute Pair of Eyes seeing yet another buyout and is now at about the $10 mark. But keep in mind that that was the only Roroa among the top 4. I didn't really get to take a look at the top 8. We'll see what happens overall, because one thing to also note is that the Canada tournament, Chronojet was not legal for that tournament because it was only a week old. It needs to be at least 2 weeks old before it will actually qualify to be played at tournaments. Amazement Magician, I talked about how the holofoil got bought out, but if you want to pick up the common, I would suggest doing so. They're in the 20-cent range right now, and this does have the potential to become $1 or $2, especially now that the holofoil has been bought out to the point that it has. And this is a generic staple that you can play in Dark States decks depending on just how you want to play it. Friend of the Netherworld Ling and Kadwala on top of Clear Shimmer Aura. I've got a special announcement to talk about here that Bushiroad just announced earlier today. They're getting reprinted in Festival Collection 2023, along with a bunch of other cards. Bushiroad decided, okay, we're not gonna hold back. We're just gonna show you everything that's getting reprinted in the Festival Collection now. So going through it, we've got Arcs, Marjorie, and Pasado as alternate arts. Then you've got stuff like Gunram, Painkillers in here. We already talked about Bobble Mine, Clapping Dragon. Then you've got Overeating Eileen. Then you've got Aura, Ling, and Codwall in here, amongst other pretty good reprints overall. There are some questionable ones, but for the most part, these are some pretty solid reprints that we're going to be seeing. Now, disclaimer again, I don't know what the ratios are going to be on these since they are RE rarity, and usually the ratios on those are really bad. So do keep in mind that this may cause some initial price decreases, but once they do, you're better off picking them up earlier in case the ratios turn out to be so bad that the prices just go back up again anyway. Alpin is a card from set 7 that you'll want to consider right now. Being at the $3 to $4 price point, and with Magnolia getting set 9 support, this card does have the potential to see a buyout, and we have been seeing a good amount of listings sell over the last few days. So pay attention to this card as we move to set 9. Another one that has already been bought out from set 7, and honestly I'm not too sure why this one, but Honatera is a sort of cheaper version of playing Alden in Bastion. Instead of Counterblast 2, it's Counterblast 1, but you only draw 1 card and you need to have 5 units on the board in order to draw the card. This card will also get boost if you have a full board, but the double R is over $5 now, and even though there is a $4 listing for the FR, that's only one listing before there's only one other for $20. So I'd say shop around for this one, but if you have copies of this, they're going for a bit, so you can put them on the market now. And finally, go ahead, Mikani. We've talked about the initial buyout for Messiah on this one, but the listings are starting to dwindle again. And we're back to $10 from what was like a $6, $7 fall. It fell out to $6 to $7, but it's back up again now that Messiah is available in Japan, except for the fact that I don't think you would end up playing this in Messiah anyway, but it is still a generic to consider for soul charging. Thanks for watching, guys. If you liked the video, please like and subscribe, and I will see you guys next time.